huge body sprawled across the ground, yet it was as nimble as if it was underwater. His nimble body swept away dozens of cannonballs, saving the lives of several hundred pirates behind him. In every other direction, there were also other mutants powering up. But even so, they couldn't stop the instantaneous 500 cannonballs. In just a split second of effort, half of the more than 1,000 pirates of the 4th Squad were blown up. Zhang Yi sighed in his heart with regret. This kind of cannon fire flurry could only be used once. It was because he could not have time to reload the 500 artillery guns for a second time. However, the effect of this attack was already very considerable. It also verified his suspicions. That was that the objects within his dimensional space were not defined by the rules of drawing a prison. Bai Li Changqing and the others watched Zhang Yi put away the 500 artillery pieces. At this moment, Bai Li Changqing realized why Zhang Yi had asked for so many heavy firearms that seemed like waste in the first place. Yi He and the others looked at Zhang Yi with a look of admiration in their eyes. Worthy of being their captain, he had thought of a way to crack the opponent's ability so quickly. Kanuta looked at his men who had turned into pieces and listened to their wailing in pain. It looked at Zhang Yi with incomparable anger. Damn bastard, I must kill you. Its huge body was half immersed in the mud, and strangely enough, the ice, snow and mud didn't hinder him in any way. But anything that encountered his body would ripple like water. Kanuta stared at Zhang Yi and the others in the middle of the cage. He couldn't wait to attack immediately and kill Zhang Yi and the others. However, when he thought of the abilities Zhang Yi possessed, he did not attack rashly. Zhang Yi's dimensional space could absorb almost any attack and bounce it back. Anger, instead of bringing him victory, would create more mistakes. And Zhang Yi was also pondering on how to break the cage. I just killed so many pirates, yet the cage is still there. That means the ability caster hasn't been killed at all. Zhang Yi's gaze looked towards Canute's huge body. That mutant, he must have been protected by him. Although he could not escape from the middle of the cage for the time being, Zhang Yi was still relatively confident in his heart. There was nothing the other party could do to them. But just at this time, a message alert from Gao Changkong appeared from the hologram inside the watch communicator. Chaos, it's not good. There's a change in the situation, you must rush to round up the pirates. This is most likely a huge trap. Zhang Yi's pupil shrunk violently, and a chill arose in his back. What does this mean? Linhai City sighed. Gao Changkong and the members of Reincarnation Squad were standing in the middle of a piece of rubble. In front of them, there were a dozen corpses lying on the ground. And some of them were dressed exactly like the Eclipse Moon troops. The ones that appeared on this side of Linhai City are not the real Eclipse Moon troops at all. We were all fooled by them. In Zhang Yi's ears, Gao Changkong's voice kept coming. Think about it, if they don't appear in Linhai City, where else could they appear? Who is the one they are most afraid of, the one they want to kill the most? Zhang Yi's eyes widened as that unsettling feeling had enveloped him. His scalp even felt a little numb. The person Eclipse Moon wanted to kill the most was naturally him who could crack Mayumi Takeuchi's prophecy ability. Kanuta cracked open his giant shark's mouth and roared, Ronins! Aren't you guys going to show up yet? Zhang Yi and the others raised their heads to look into the distance, and on top of a short mountain, the faces of a few old acquaintances were revealed. Phoenix Ren, and those mutants of the Eclipse Moon under him, were all present. Instead of traveling to Linhai City, the Eclipse Moon's mutants appeared in Tianhai City, right in front of Zhang Yi and the others. Such a scene directly shook the entire Blizzard City hierarchy. Inside the combat center, Zhu Zheng and the others, who were still old-fashioned and thought that the situation was all under control, were all a bit flustered. How could this happen? Zhu Zheng directly stood up from his chair, his stern gaze sweeping over everyone on the scene. Our plan of action was kept absolutely secret, and we did not reveal the plan to split our troops to the outside world. But how were they able to know that Zhang Yi's Tengu squad was in Tianhai City? This mission was top secret, and all the people who knew about the information other than the 3 teams would be these officers in the command center. Now it was almost certain that there must be a mole who had revealed the information. Lan Xincheng's eyes looked towards an area that was the intelligence team that specialized in communicating with the Tengu squad. With a cold face, Lan Xincheng took large strides towards that area. He arrived in front of the person in charge, Lin Kaidai. What the hell is going on here? Why did the intelligence leak? Lin Kaidai was a woman in her 30s who wore her hair in a meticulous bun, looking dignified and elegant. Even when faced with Lan Xincheng's questioning, her face just wore a subdued smile. However, as she smiled, her face turned pale. A strain of blood flowed down from the corner of her mouth, and her entire body instantly collapsed to the ground. A gasp of shock rang out from the surroundings. Lan Xincheng carefully opened her mouth, and helplessly said to Zhu Zheng, she had long ago contained cyanide capsules in her mouth, and has now committed suicide by fear. The situation was already obvious, there was indeed an informant who had revealed the information to Eclipse Moon. Only Zhu Zheng did not understand why someone would be a traitor even in death. What exactly was the purpose of all this? But right now, Zhu Zheng didn't have the heart to pursue those things because at this moment, Zhang Yi was facing a very huge crisis. Eclipse Moon and Sky Dragon pirates had joined forces and set up a huge trap just to round up on them. Can the reincarnation squad side go over to provide support? Lan Xincheng replied, they're in Linhai City, so it would take half an hour at the earliest if they go over. Tu Yunlai and his side's battle has already begun, they can't support over there either. Zhu Zheng gritted his teeth and said to Zhang Yi, try to stall for time, I'll immediately have the reincarnation squad go over to support you. Zhang Yi's eyes went ice cold. He realized that there was a ghost. After all, he had messed with some people's cakes to the point that they wanted to kill him. But how could it be that easy to kill him? Zhang Yi didn't trust anyone anymore, including Zhu Zheng. So he directly cut off the calls with the headquarters. This sudden action made Zhu Zheng even stare in disbelief, but he was not in a position to be angry at the way people were behaving. Inside Blizzard City, which he thought was solid as gold, there was a spy from Eclipse Moon. This was his responsibility as the commander. Even if Zhang Yi suspected him, it was still a reasonable thing to do. After Zhang Yi cut off the call, he immediately said to everyone around him, Eclipse Moon's undercover agent has appeared at the headquarters, from now on, everything is under my command, don't contact the headquarters anymore. The situation at hand was very obvious, this was a trap, waiting for Zhang Yi and the others to fall into it. They could trust no one but themselves right now. Gao Changkong was still saying to Zhang Yi, we'll rush over right away, so you'll have to support yourself for a little while longer. Please be careful. Zhang Yi didn't say anything and cut off Gao Changkong's communication as well. He could not tell who was a human and who was the ghost. Anyway, let's win this fight first. Phoenix Ren stood on the short hill and lit a cigarette for himself. Let's begin. With Eclipse Moon and the Sky Dragon pirates joining forces, it was definitely possible for such a powerful force to annihilate an investigation squad. What's more, the Tengu squad was also recognized as the investigation team with the weakest combat power. The captain, Zhang Yi, was officially given an ability index rating of only 8,200 points. Even the team was put together temporarily. On this side of Blizzard City, Zhu Zheng asked Lan Xincheng to investigate if there was still a mole within the city, while on the other hand, he ordered Reincarnation Squad to quickly head to Tianhai City for support. And what could he do now? Nothing could be done. It was impossible to use missiles or the Reaper of Love to attack indiscriminately because Zhang Yi and the others were there as well. He could only watch quietly, hoping that Zhang Yi would be able to hold out until the Reincarnation Squad went to their rescue. On top of the battlefield, the attacks of Eclipse Moon and Sky Dragon pirates had already begun. The first person to strike was Jinguji Saikairo. He took out 10 talismans from his pocket and scattered them in the air before pinching a seal with his right hand. I command the gods, all Tathagata. The heavenly Dharma body, haste is the order of the day. The 10 white talismans raised a layer of white smoke in the air before transforming into 10 black hounds. This was a type of Shikigami that Zhang Yi had never seen before. They were as black as ink, giving off an evil and terrifying feeling. The 10 demonic hounds snarled and lunged towards Zhang Yi. Although Zhang Yi did not know what their abilities were, as long as the dimensional gate was opened, all their attacks would be reduced to nothing. In an instant, all 10 black demonic dogs were absorbed by Zhang Yi into his dimensional space. However, right at this moment, Zhang Yi saw the corner of Jinguji Saikairo's mouth raised. Interdimensional space. It can absorb everything, but there is a limit to the amount it can carry. One only needs to infuse it with more than the limited amount of energy to make it break. With the middle and index fingers of his right hand together, he placed them at his mouth and droned in a deep voice, "Extinguish." Zhang Yi sensed that in the middle of his interdimensional space, the 10 demonic dogs suddenly exploded violently as if they had sensed something. This was the self-exploding demon dogs, the special deity that Jinguji Saikairo had crafted in order to deal with Zhang Yi's dimensional space ability. Sensing the explosion in dimensional space, Zhang Yi was also somewhat moved. It was because the energy contained within these devil dogs was terrifying. At the same time, he was also clear about one thing. All of his own information had also been told to Eclipse Moon's people by the mole. This was a roundup targeting him. It was as if it was exactly the same as the previous roundup targeting Deng Shintong. Someone first wanted Deng Shintong to disappear from the Jiangnan region. There was also someone who wanted him, Zhang Yi, to disappear from the Jiangnan region. Zhang Yi's eyes were exceptionally cold, even more so than the snow and ice between heaven and earth at this time. However, after Jinguji Saikairo confidently used the self-destructing demon dog, he realized that Zhang Yi was not affected in any way. He took a few steps back in surprise. How is this possible? The detonation charm yield I used was the equivalent of a full 2 tons of TNT. With this kind of explosive equivalent, even a captain-level character would choose to dodge it rather than dare to prove opposing it. Could it be that the intelligence is wrong? Jinguji Saikairo's forehead left a rare drop of sweat. This kind of thing exceeded his expectations, and not being in the grasp of things made his heart begin to panic. Zhang Yi's eyes were as cold as the 10,000-year-old snow of the Arctic ice plains. Being betrayed made him feel incomparably angry. However, at the same time, his mind was exceptionally clear, not letting his emotions interfere with his judgment. Perhaps it was simply because he had seen too many distortions of human nature in the midst of the end times, so even after being betrayed, he seemed to be somewhat used to it. Good thing, I hit it deep enough. Zhang Yi lamented so in his heart. The opponent had misjudged his strength, and the prepared attack was not sufficient. And here, this is my home ground. Today, I would like to see who is the hunter and who is the prey.